In the headlines, the Honorable Minister Joseph Isaac appeals to the opposition to join the nationalistic approach to building back Dominica post-Hurricane Maria. The Health Minister and the Nurses Association at loggerheads over nurses' salaries, and Forest Schools survive for the coveted Under-15 Cricket Championship trophy. I am Andrea Louis with the Channel 5 News. Back with the details after this.
M&J Covering is the producer of designed galvanized and galvalume in Dominica. They design to your specifications, color and length, 4 styles of galvanized and galvalume pre-painted roofing sheets as requested, and supply all your galvalume accessories. M&J Covering helps you control spending and reduce waste. At M&J Covering, they are also equipped to build your roof to precise standards anywhere on island. So come to M&J Covering at 1 Mile in Portsmouth or call 445-5001 275-5003 today.
There are signs everywhere. Pay attention whether you're male or female. Visit your health center to get screened. It's a preliminary test to determine if you are exposed to the HIV virus, an STI, or tuberculosis. Some people who are HIV positive also have tuberculosis. But there's hope. Tuberculosis can be cured. And yes, you can live a full life with HIV. Talk to your doctor. Be responsible. Help stop the spread of TB, HIV. Encourage everyone to get tested.
Thank you for staying with us. First up, the newest Minister of Government, Honorable Joseph Isaac, sat with the Labour MPs in Parliament on Tuesday. Julian Morris has more.
The Speaker says she and the clerk made the sitting arrangements upon a written request from Honorable Isaac. Prime Minister Skerrit, along with MPs Kenneth Darrow, Ian Douglas and Deputy Prime Minister Reginald Austrie, all congratulated Joseph Isaac on his first day in Parliament as a Minister of Government. MP for Salisbury, Hector John and Monel Williams walked out during the congratulatory messages, only coming back in when it was all over. The Speaker of the House also congratulated Isaac upon his achievement as Minister. But Joseph Isaac seemed very much at home among the other government MPs, inviting the opposition to join a more nationalistic approach to nation-building post-Maria. Isaac said if government fails, all of us fail, Madam Speaker. He also invited Dominicans in the diaspora to help in the building back process, as opposed to using the internet to do the opposite.
In related news, no one on the opposition side stood up to congratulate their former colleague Joseph Isaac on his first day as a Minister of Government. But MP for Roseau South, Joshua Francis, told Channel 5 News he opted to do it privately.
I know the gentleman, the Honorable Joseph Isaac, personally. I admire him for many things. I was tempted to stand to put a congratulatory remark on public record, but I opted against it. Instead, I went up to him and congratulated him personally. And that wasn't the first time. I had spoken to him prior to our coming, prior to the session, beginning of the session. I wish the gentleman well. Of course, he has undertaken a position which is in the interest of Dominica, and I can only hope the best for him. A failure on his part would be a failure for Dominica. A success on his part is a success for Dominica. I'm a man who stands for success. Anything that is good, anything that is holy, anything that is pure, anything to improve the lives and qualities of the Dominicans, especially the weak, the poor, and the marginalized.
Meantime, while stopping short of saying emphatically whether or not he will contest the 2020 general election, Francis appears to be leaving that possibility of contesting on the table.
Well, time will tell. My steps are ordered by the Lord. At this hour, I have taken a big step to accept the nomination and election as Deputy Leader of the United Workers' Party Team Dominica. The next question is, as you rightly pointed, is whether I will contest on the ticket of Team Dominica in the Roseau South constituency. At this hour, I'm inclined to do so because a significant number of people are calling on me, asking me, pleading with me that I need to go back. But of course, in situations like that, it's always a debate between self and selflessness. And given that I'm a child of God, selflessness may get the advantage.
Francis says getting involved in politics can be risky, and one has to balance his life to ensure priorities such as family are in order.
Being a parlor rep or even getting involved in the political arena come at a very high risk, a very high price. This is a very selfless task on both sides, irrespective of whether you go up with your WP or with the Dominican Labour Party. You have to shed a lot, you have to give up a lot, especially for parliamentary opposition members, because we are not guaranteed any jobs. We don't have that link to butter our tongues in any way. So it's really a very difficult road, a very difficult process. So I have had to think as to what I want, whether I'm going to be selfless and to commit myself to Dominica more or less, or whether I was going to commit myself to my family more or less. You know, when you get to that stage, you then have to really think it out, because a man's priority under the sun is to take care of his wife and his children first before he can take care of his neighbor. And when you're a politician, especially with young children, it is really a hard decision to sacrifice time with your family for the people. But you know, the good book in which I believe says that the greatest gift a man can give for his brother is to make his life, give up his life for him. And it's not always a physical end of your life, but making time for another. And that's what Joshua Francis is about.
Francis was re-elected to the post of deputy political leader at the UWP's delegates conference on the weekend. Some have wondered why he accepted to be reinstalled in that position from which he was booted out 2 years ago amid some controversy. Francis says that's the past and they are now focusing on marching into the future. On to matters of health, site clearing to rebuild the Margot Hospital has begun, with the health minister assuring the public that there has been no stalling tactics to hinder the project. Dr. Daru says the reasons for the delay in the start of the project had nothing to do with claims that Margot was being sidelined.
We would have with a lot, especially by the Member of Parliament for the area, you know, that we're delaying and delay tactics. And again, I want to place on the public record that as a medical doctor, please, okay, I think how will I put it? It goes against all that we were taught, okay, in terms of the impression. I don't want to give the perception that Marigot is being victimized or whatever terms they use out there because of their political preference. Okay, as a medical doctor, I said this goes against everything, and I'm sure Dr. Drygo, Dr. Johnson will tell you that this goes against everything that we were taught. We were taught to save lives, to help people, okay, to help people in whatever way that we can.
The Margot Hospital project is being funded by the Mexico government to the tune of $5 million. Government has hired a contractor to clear the current hospital site, which started on Monday.
The process I'm in from commitment to actually receiving funds, as we've said many times before, you would have heard the Prime Minister and all other regional leaders bemoan that process. The process usually is very tardy, very time-consuming, lots of documents, lots of back-and-forth email, lots of back-and-forth telephone calls. So an organization, a country comes to your shore, of course, immediately after a hurricane or whatever. They say, hey, last puppy, you know, we're going to help you. We're going to give you $20 million. But that's just the leader of the organization, leader of the country saying that. They now have to go back to their country, to their parliament or whatever process, their cabinet, to get to get these funds mobilized and to the country.
Healthcare services in Marigot had to be relocated from its original building in 2016 due to mold infestation. The new hospital will be built on the older site, which has been treated and approved by the Environmental Health Department. Still in health developments, Health Minister Dr. Kenneth Daru has warned nurses not to allow themselves to be led down the wrong path in the face of demands for a salary increase.
The Dominica Nurses Association is complaining of low wages, threatening action if government does not meet a request for a salary increase for the nursing sector. Health Minister Dr. Daru says government cannot agree to a salary increase for nurses at this time.
In meeting with the leadership of the DNA, they did say that salary wasn't the main issue. You with me? So if salaries were not the main issue, we've addressed basically all of the other issues that they brought up. You with me? So that's why I said it begs the question, what is the motive behind this? Some of the leadership of the DNA, they were in positions where they could influence, okay, where they could influence the positive outcome in the nursing situation, both in the nursing and also in the tuition part of it. So again, I want to warn the membership, as I refer to them as idle hands and idle minds who have nothing better to do, okay, than to lead them down the wrong path, because that's what I see is going. Because I think it's very unfortunate at this point in the country, in Dominica's history, just barely seeing recovering, standing up, crawling after major hurricane, that this would be the most important issue on the table for any sector. And I said, don't get me wrong, we all deserve more pay.
Re-elected president of the Dominican Nurses Association, Rosie Felix, says she's been making a case for better pay since her first stint at the helm of the association.
When I was the president of the Dominican Nurses Association, 10 years ago to be exact, I was lobbying for salary revision for nurses. The association before my time, was asking for that, because we've never felt that as professionals that we've been paid what is really due to us as professionals. We have grown and developed with the times, and we believe that a salary upgrade is due.
Do you accept that the government may not be able to provide a salary increase for nurses at this point in time?
Well, I heard the government say they're going to get 100 more police officers. Salary has to come somewhere for these 100 officers. If they're going to recruit nurses from outside, they got to pay these nurses.
Perhaps Cuba is helping in that regard.
I don't know, but the money has to come from somewhere. You hear the ministers and the prime minister talking about money all the time. Besides, on a more a better argument is that when nurses leave, you're going to have to find them from somewhere, and you're going to have to spend more, because when they recruit nurses, guess what? They have to pay them housing allowance and everything else that goes with it.
In other news, poultry production is making its way back at the National Abattoir. This after Hurricane Maria destroyed 98% of the infrastructure. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Dr. Reginald Thomas, says while poultry production was affected, pork production is back on track. He says the slaughter of poultry and pigs resumed at the National Abattoir since late October, early November last year. He is assuring consumers they can make arrangements to collect their fresh pork and poultry.
We got some damages. There was some damage to the infrastructure. However, it did not prevent us from being able to produce. We had no power, but we had backup generators. We have backup generators, which we continue to use. So we have been slaughtering weekly. First, we did it as a response to some of the farmers who had lost their covering on their facilities, their pig facilities in particular. So the pigs were suffering and dying due to the intense exposure to the sun. So we were going around and just addressing that issue, that immediate issue of slaughtering as a welfare issue, but also having meat available for the local community, our local population. So we have been doing that, and every week we continue to produce.
You are watching the Channel 5 News, the readiness of emergency shelters ahead of the 2018 hurricane season. That and more after the break.
Do you need more cash for that home improvement? Then come to Fast Cash, where we give you more. At Fast Cash, our customers get more funds and more time to repay. But wait, can't come to us? We'll come to you, and our mobile officer will get you on your way. Small businesses, consumers, and taxi owners. Fast Cash has more for everyone. Simply call or visit any of our locations for more. Smarter, faster, better. Fast Cash. Terms and conditions apply.
Rudolph Thomas Enterprise in Portsmouth, your suppliers of building materials and hardware products. Over 20 years experience in the business. Rudolph Thomas has lumber and plywood, galvanized and fenced pipe. Check out Rudolph Thomas for ceramic and vinyl floor and wall tiles, nails, nuts and bolts, paint and painting supplies. And check out their line of electrical and hand tools. Go now to Rudolph Thomas on 1240 Bay Street in Portsmouth.
Welcome back. With approximately 1 month to go ahead of the start of the 2018 hurricane season, emergency shelters remain a top concern for those in the Paybush constituency. Member of Parliament for Paybush, Rosalind Paul, says due to the extent of damage to emergency shelters in her constituency, talks are ongoing at the highest level as to how to rehabilitate these buildings for future weather events.
This is something that's under discussion at cabinet level, and we would have to try to put certain things in place to see how well we could do that. We would hope that if we build back better homes, more strength for the roof, that neighbors can maybe come together if the homes are resistant to that type of hurricane. So that's one strategy, trying to ensure that as we rebuild the roof, that we do it, or rebuild homes, that we do it in a more resilient manner to that level of hurricane.
School buildings, which can serve multiple functions in the community, are also receiving their fair share of the pie as regards renovation works.
We are also grateful to emergency engineers that have come on board and have sponsored and are working feverishly to ensure that the Benz School is being repaired and refurbished. And for the new school term, we will have almost a new school at Strengford School. The same is happening in Paybush, and they started on Monday, and this is Hats and Hands, another international voluntary organization who is sponsoring the refurbishing and repairs on the Paybush Primary School.
Sticking to the Build Back Better campaign, work is steadily ongoing to refurbish and rebuild damaged houses in the constituency. Paul says over $900,000 have already been spent on post-Maria housing rehabilitation.
Currently, the greater focus is on housing, home repairs, roof repairs. That is with the intention to see as to how many people we can restore to normal home conditions as quickly as possible. So far, we've disbursed over $900,000 to beneficiaries, to constituents across the three communities, and the constituents would be pleased to know that another $1.9 million has been approved by the Prime Minister that will benefit pretty close to 200 constituents across the three communities.
In terms of the constituency's progress 7.5 months after Hurricane Maria, Paul says she is happy with the level of restoration of utilities thus far.
7 months after Maria 2, we are happy to see that we have water supply restored, particularly in Paybush. It took quite a long time, but we thank DOWASCO for restoring the water. And as well as Domlek has begun to restore electricity in the communities. Kalibishi, many people have electricity restored, some in Paybush, and so we are happy for that.
Dominica's plan to gain financial benefits for its healthy forest canopy has suffered a serious setback due to Hurricane Maria. In 2017, the Division of Forestry embarked on a project which would see the country receiving monetary profits from the international community for its high level of forest cover. The project focused on reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, REDD+. Director of Forestry Menchington Burton says the division began work under this project, which falls under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change.
Sometime last year, early last year, we sought on an OECS GCCA project to get a consultant that came down and we developed a draft REDD+ strategy to look at some of the steps to actually be able to fully take part in the REDD+ process. But as you know, it's a process under the UNFCCC, that is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So it's mainly climate change related. So you have to be able to have many different data to prove the amount of emissions, the amount, for instance, your carbon capture, and how much is carbon, and then be able to accurately measure that, and then show that, for instance, our trees are capturing so much compared to how much we are emitting. So the difference in there, we can say that we have much carbon, and then you can put it on the carbon market or through the Green Climate Fund and get money. So it's a complicated process. They're not that they're going to give you money.
Burton says Hurricane Maria has provided the opportunity for the country to start fresh with putting structures in place to properly benefit from the REDD+ program.
Right now, we have an opportunity through reforestation programs to probably be able to collect that type of data and plant. So we planted how many new trees because of that and so on, you know, so a lot more carbon capture, and so we can actually be able to get some benefit from that. But what we've been working with some international institutions, such as the Coalition for Rainforest Nations, particularly right now, one of the key things we, based on the strategy process, is that we have to be able to get our data right. And so we're now trying to see if we can get various ways and means to collect the proper data that we need, especially post-Maria, and then so that we can input that. And for instance, we have there a number of other complicated issues. You have to get reference emission levels and do a number of other technical stuff to be able to set up your data system, database that you can actually get this thing. So we're in the process of that.
And the first Kalinago native to be elected president of the National Youth Council, Paul Barron, is seeing his new post as a chief servant to the youth.
All new faces at the executive level of the National Youth Council of Dominica following Saturday's elections, and Barron has set an historical precedence, being the first from the Kalinago territory to assume that role. Among his interests is capturing more young people who are differently abled in NYC's mission.
My vision for Dominica's youth is that of empowerment. Empowerment where employment is concerned, human resource development, to look at some of the areas where youth are considered vulnerable, to increase the awareness and to be a campaigner for the rights of indigenous peoples as well, for gender parity in terms of gender-based issues and violence and whatnot, and also to incorporate and integrate, as we continuously do, persons who are differently abled into our vision here at NYC.
While the executive has not officially sat together to plan out their agenda, Barron says there is a need to give more support to youth groups.
Dominica's youth represent a large majority of our population. I always continue to say that. On Saturday, it was confirmed that it is 60%. So that is a vast reservoir of ideas, innovation, creativity, a pool from which we can harness. In order to do that, we have to actively engage young persons. Also, is it so critical that young persons are actively involved in their communities? That is why the emphasis will be placed on strengthening the youth groups at the level of the community and at the level of the district. Because what has worked for me as an individual is my involvement in groups.
He takes up the role from Government Senator Josiah Benoit. He too has been on political platforms and is currently the chairperson of the Atkinson Village Council. Barron addressed questions about possible political aspirations.
I believe that as a young individual entering politics, while it might be honorable, I still wish and feel that there's a lot that I can benefit from. And as I often tell my peers, personal and professional development is at my core. So if for any reason I am called to the forefront, because largely it's not just my decision, I would want to know that I have developed myself, refined and honed my skills so that I can serve in the best capacity going forward. My ambitions where politics is concerned is to serve the country at its highest order. And as far as an individual, I think searching for that opportunity is a much worthy goal. So that much I will say.
On Monday, Prime Minister Skerrit announced through a congratulatory message on his Facebook page to the recently appointed executive that he would meet with them in May. He also made an appearance at the NYC's assembly on Saturday to offer his regards. The other members of the board are David Thornhill, chairperson, Kadisha St. Louis, first vice president, Therese Moranci, second vice president, Daniel Panthe, publicity coordinator, Keanu Winston, assistant secretary and treasurer. Yannick Regis and Kasim Birmingham are committee members.
That's news. Stay tuned for your sports highlights with Kenny Williams.
First up in sports, 4 teams will converge at 2 venues to decide who gets to move on to the next round of the Sports Division Schools Under-15 Cricket Championship on Wednesday. At Windsor Park Sports Stadium, PHL Secondary and Northeast Comprehensive will go head-to-head for a spot in the final, while over at Botanic Gardens, Isaiah Thomas Secondary will do battle with St. Mary's Academy. The teams winning the semis will move on to the final, which is carded for Friday at the stadium. So the point standing heading into Wednesday's semifinals: in Zone A, PCSS is in the lead with 45 points, followed by SMA on 38. Dominica Grammar School follows on 27, while Goodwill Secondary is last on 5 points. Isaiah Thomas Secondary tops Zone B with 27 points, while Northeast Comprehensive trails on 24. Casabru Secondary is next on 22, followed by PHL Secondary 17. In basketball, one community leader is ensuring the local basketball fraternity has an action-packed tournament which begins this Saturday from 6:30 p.m. Honorable Kelva Daru says the St. Joseph Hart Court was one of the basketball facilities least affected by Hurricane Maria, and all concerned have been putting in the work to ensure an improved ambience at the Honorable Kelva Daru Basketball League.
A number of our hard courts have also been impacted, and due to that, a number of the young men in these areas, they are unable to play basketball the way they normally play. Luckily for us in the community of St. Joseph, our hard court was not so severely impacted, but with the assistance of the basketball players in the community of St. Joseph, we have been able to get the basketball court up to a standard that it can accommodate the national games and also the games that we are going to take place to have happen in this league. In light of this, we've done some improvements to the basketball court. That is to say, we've strengthened up the rims. We also now in putting in some bleachers for the persons who come to view the games, the spectators to sit and to view the games. And we have also been collaborating with both the sports division and by extension also the Basketball Association to assist us in getting this league off the ground.
Minister Darrow noted the HKDBL give athletes the opportunity to sharpen their skills since a number of courts had been negatively impacted due to Hurricane Maria.
The regular Dominica Amateur Basketball Association League will not be taking place this year, and we have a number of young men across the country who are still actively involved in basketball and in ensuring that their skill can be taken to another level. So in light of this, a committee was set up headed by Mr. Udi John, who is here for this afternoon, to ensure that we could plan properly for the commencement of a national, quote-unquote, basketball league in the community of St. Joseph. The league, I believe, will provide the opportunity for the young people, particularly young men, to continue to show and exhibit their energies in a positive way, as well as to continue to have the sport of basketball alive and kicking in the country.
Meantime, the Secondary Schools Basketball League resumes on Wednesday with 2 games. At Lindo Park, the girls from Portsmouth Secondary will travel south to take on Dominica State College in a rematch of last year's final. Then moving further south, PHL Secondary will play host to Dominica Grammar School. Both games are carded for 3 in the afternoon. On the international cricket scene, where despite rediscovering his form in the game, destructive batsman Chris Gayle revealed he'd been told Royal Challengers Bangalore would retain him, only not to hear from the franchise again. With 252 runs in 4 matches this season for Kings 11 Punjab, Gayle played the type of cricket that got him contracted to play for RCB over the years before he was released by the franchise ahead of the 2018 IPL. RCB let Gayle go after he scored only 200 runs at a strike rate of 122.69 in 9 innings in the 2017 IPL, but between then and now, the batsman had found T20 form. In the 2017 TPL, Gayle was the highest scorer for St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots. He bettered that in the BPL, where he topped the tournament run charts by a distance and scored 146 not out with 18 sixes in the final. Gayle said that stats don't lie, and if that doesn't put a stamp on brand Chris Gayle, he doesn't know what will. Gayle nearly didn't make it to this IPL entirely. Having gone unsold when his name came up for bidding the first time during the player auction in January, he was eventually bought at base price by Kings 11 towards the end of the auction's second day. Finally, we can tell you that defending champions, Dangerous Public Enemies and Rebels have booked spots in the finals of the Guineas Four-Hand Domino competition over the weekend. Enemies secured their spot by defeating Wake Up Stars from Portsmouth by 447 points in front of a large crowd. Final scores: Enemies 4,009, Wake Up Stars 3,562. In the other match, devastating Rebels from Foncolé finished 516 points ahead to defeat Golden Arms from Soufriere, booking their maiden spot in the finals. Final scores: Rebels 4,002, Golden Arms 3,486. The best of three finals will be played on Sunday at Runners Bar from 2 in the afternoon. That's all the sporting highlights for now. I am Kenny Williams. Be sure to join us next time.
To end the news, the headlines again. The Honorable Minister Joseph Isaac appeals to the opposition to join the nationalistic approach to building back Dominica post-Hurricane Maria. The Minister for Health and the Nurses Association at loggerheads over nurses' salaries. And 4 schools to vie for the coveted Under-15 Cricket Championship trophy. Feel free to contact us at news@marpin2k4.com. You can also access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the entire production team, I am Andrea Louis, and to all of our viewers around the world, thank you so much for watching. Join us next time.